everyone, to another Absolutely Gospel interview with artists. Normally you would see Bev here. I'm Dave, and Bev's taking some time off, so I'll be filling in, but I have Southbound with us.
Good to be with you, Dave.
Yep. We are super excited to have you guys talk about your new album, which is I Left It in the Water.
Yes, sir.
That's a not only is that a very interesting title that kind of brings up a lot of images, but your cover also is pretty interesting.
Yeah, what a lot of people don't know about that cover is I told them, I said, hey, we're going to be shooting it at the ocean. You know, it's like near Daytona. And we, as anything, when you're doing a studio or whatever, you got to book it ahead of time.
Sure.
So the date was set a long time. Well, we're in Florida. Little did we know that morning would be 38 degrees. It's never 38 degrees in Florida. And so it was freezing.
Right.
And people ask us all the time when they see the album cover, they'll say, well, did y'all,
Photoshop it?
Yeah, Photoshop that. And we're like, not only did we not Photoshop that, it's so much worse than what you see there. Because it's 38 degrees.
Okay. The
photographer says, okay, guys, go into the ocean at your ankles and, kick up the water. That was one thing. Do this, do that. He goes, all right, we got that. Y'all walk out. So we did. He goes, now go to your knees and walk out. And so we did. Then he said, go to your waist and walk out. We did. Then he said, go to your neck, go back and walk out. We did. He said, all right, I want y'all. I mean, that's what. So what was happening though is in Daytona, it's on the Atlantic side. So there's a lot of rocks under there. It's not smooth beach.
Right.
Like you get when you're in Destin or something like that. So, every other shot, he's falling or I'm falling or Seth's falling, you're stumbling. Oh, we'll do it again. So we were freezing.
Yeah, freezing
to get that
and falling. Wondering who scheduled that.
Yeah.
So then footwear. What were you guys wearing?
Just everything that we normally wear. We were in shoes, right?
I don't think I was wearing
tennis
shoes.
I had tennis shoes on.
I had tennis shoes on too.
That would be smart.
Yeah, it was freezing.
You don't want to wear dress shoes that have kind of a slick bottom.
We didn't wear that. But it was a challenge, and of all days in Florida to be 38 degrees was just unheard of.
Yeah.
And we did it.
It's never happened before or since.
Well,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic cover, though.
Thank you.
Because it says a lot.
Thank you.
It really. I know you guys went through a lot. You probably felt like naming and tipping 7 times. But,
exactly.
But when you see that album cover, it grabs your attention, and then you see I Left It in the Water.
Yeah.
It's just like the title of a song. You want it to grab people's attention, and they want to hear more. They want to hear what that's all about.
So. Yeah. No, you guys nailed it in that regard.
Thank you.
So listening to the songs, which I Left It in the Water, I think is your title track is the second one, but can you guys, I guess first question is, how many of them did y'all write? Because I know you're all writers.
I think 9 of the 12.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that
10
doesn't surprise me. It wouldn't have shocked me if you said, well, all of them. What are you talking about?
No, we didn't write nothing.
Okay.
And we didn't write stories.
Okay.
And Friend of Mine.
Well, Bishop.
I was a writer on that, but that's Barry Weeks and Jason Crabb, friend of mine.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 9.
Pretty neat collaboration there.
Yeah.
You guys put them together. What theme or story were you shooting for this album? Because this is your third album, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think when we start planning an album, we don't try to come up with a certain theme, but being writers and listening to music all the time, we just start collecting songs, and when it comes time for another album, you know, a lot of times it's how many songs have we already recorded, because
Mhm.
we haven't even released all the songs we recorded up to this point. We already have
Right.
several that we could put on another project.
16
16.
Wow.
studio songs that we've
Well,
never
and the cool
released.
thing too about that is, like, I'm thinking of song in particular that we couldn't even put on this album because we had the 12 songs we needed.
Right.
That I think is as good as. I mean, we've got so many songs, and but I feel like the 12 that we have on this record was supposed to be on there. But boy, there's several others that we have that are just,
Yeah.
definitely going to be on the next one.
We know that when we're traveling and doing concerts and doing these events, that, that night is not going to, they're going to want all the songs that they've heard on the radio. Of
course.
So we don't really think of an album as a theme, because we know that we're going to be singing, this song, this song, this song, this song. So we really want that song to fit a situation that someone we believe is going through. So
Sure.
so we know that not. We were talking in an interview to a radio station, and I said, there's a lot of things like Hold On to Hope. There's a lot of people that are not, at the end of their rope. They're not in a desperate, stressful. I was telling them, I said, I got family members, uncles and aunts, that their biggest problem is mosquitoes. They're not
Right.
they're not stressed out about life.
Right.
But another song like like That Was the Old Me would fit them. They would say, oh yeah, I remember back when I went through that. So our desire on albums is, will this song, when we sing it, will it touch somebody's life, change somebody's life? Can somebody relate to it? And so it's not, we don't really think of albums as themes,
Okay. Makes sense.
we got to have a title cut, and we want
course.
the title cut to match what we're doing visually.
Right.
But I don't think a theme really hits us when we're putting an album together.
Well, I
But
think
I even love how we start off the album that with God uses everything,
right.
because
Even
a lot
the
of
rain.
times people think God uses the blessings that he does in our lives, but we try to, get rid of and ignore some of the bad things that we've been through or that we're in the middle of. But the truth is, God uses that too.
Yeah.
He can use everything.
Yeah,
He says
right.
he works all things for our good. And the truth is,
Right.
he works bad situations, tough situations, and good situations in our lives that we can learn from, grow from, and, testify about.
Absolutely. Yeah. I can see that. I saw some things in there where, there was some of the songs that maybe I was just picking up on, the individual song messages, but some of them were, to encourage people that are down, and others were to encourage people to keep their faith, even though they're strong. The Bible, the song "The Bible" really was a neat one.
Yeah.
Impossible.
Yeah. Which is it?
This
one
Bible.
This Bible, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I really like that one.
Thank you.
And another one that hit me was Story on Stories.
Yeah.
And the thing that hit me about that is because the Lord's been kind of dealing with me on, not me personally, but speaking to me, that we're failing as a country to pass on the stories
Yeah.
that build faith, that build the next generation to follow Christ. Just like in Deuteronomy, Moses puts out the Ten Commandments and all that, and then he tells the children of Israel, hey, bind this on your wrists, put it as a frontlet on your head,
Yeah.
write it on the doorpost. To me, that's kind of the same thing of what you guys are saying with the Story on Stories.
Yeah.
I've got all these stories, thousands. I think there's one point that says 10,000 stories
Yeah.
in there. And the trick is, if we want the generation behind us to have the same faith, we have to share those stories.
Yeah. What's interesting about that song is that song was written by a young lady that moved from Puerto Rico to Orlando and attended my church.
Oh, wow.
Her name is Christine DeClario. What's crazy about that is nobody had ever heard that song, because she's a Spanish
Okay.
influenced artist. Well, we're sitting, I'm sitting watching the Dove Awards last year after we recorded and everything, and it was Song of the Year for the Latin Dove Awards.
Wow.
You know,
Yeah. The Latin Awards during the Dove Awards. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And she got Song of the Year, and it's Stories on Stories.
Oh, wow.
You know, and not many people had ever heard that song, you know. And I let them hear it. I said, look, man, this girl wrote this song, and this I think people will love this song, and it is one of my favorites as well. I love it.
Yes. Yeah. It's powerful.
Yeah, it's a great song.
Yeah. So I have a question for Seth. Hope Dealer. I see your shirt there. Is that what's the story behind Hope Dealer?
Well, hope is one of my favorite words, and I fought suicide depression for over 26 years of my life, where I really felt hopeless. And my definition of hope is the belief that things can change and change for the better. And I think people that feel hopeless have come to the point where they just think that things are bad, life is bad, and it's never going to change. And you know, they feel hopeless with that thought. But because I've been able to overcome those thoughts and those situations in my life, I've just taken it as a personal challenge. I saw this shirt, this hoodie online one time, and I told my wife, and she got it for me, and I have it in a couple different colors, and I wear it a lot because, you know, even today walking through the airport, somebody noticed it and said, "Oh man, I like your shirt," and they had a big smile on their face. I try to personally every day, you know, come in contact with someone that I meet and someone that I see, and you know, make them smile, you know, encourage them in some way and give them hope. And through our music, I feel like we are hope dealers. You know, when people hear our music or hear us in our concerts, you know, I want them to walk away feeling encouraged and their hope restored that God can use anything and there's nothing impossible for him. And like our song, there's nothing you can do in your past or in your future that can separate you from the love of God. And I think that's offering hope to people that people need to be reminded of.
Man, that reminds me of Jeremiah 29:11.
Yep.
God has a desires to give us a hope and a future.
Yeah. He knows the plans and the thoughts.
Yeah.
And I love that verse because it talks about the hope and the future.
Right.
But I think a lot of people go through life looking back and living back on with regret or guilt about something they've done in their past or disappointments. You know, sometimes we go through, you know, things that necessarily maybe we didn't make the choice, but something that happened to us or something that we, you know, that's not because of our choices. But if you can never get past that, then you don't have a hope for a future.
Well, Satan wants to keep us in the past, and Christ has already put that behind him as far as the east is from the west, right?
That's right. That's right.
We only have a hope and future with Christ.
That's right.
That's awesome. I love that. I'll bet you it's a conversation opener for you often.
Yeah, every time I wear it, I love it.
Yeah. You consider it a tattoo?
I already have one. It says hope.
Oh, nice.
That's it.
We did not set that up ahead of time.
Right.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So what else can you guys tell us about this project, or where sounds like you guys are picking up on your touring and got a bus now?
Yeah.
You know, what's going on with all that? Are you guys?
We are, we really feel like what God has given us, and I've said this in many interviews, that I really believe God brought us into this genre. Of course, we all grew up on it, but I don't believe he brought us here to replace anybody. A lot of times whenever you go into a genre, it always seems like, well, they took the place of, they bumped, here comes, Lady A, and well, there goes Little Big Town. Here comes, whatever, and there goes this group. We didn't come to replace anybody, but we definitely didn't come to repeat either. I believe that we have our own sound, You know,
definitely have a unique sound, and it's a good one.
I believe that we have our own sound, and I believe that God brought us into this genre not just to uphold the, you know, a lot of people, well, boy, I tell you what, they're keeping up with the traditions of, you know, there's a whole generation of people that that are younger than us and younger than them, that we don't want Southern gospel to be lost, you know, because somebody didn't want to pass it down to make it, you know, appealing and relative to that group either. And so I think we've had a great opportunity, and we go places, and a lot of our fan base, if you will, if you want to call it that, is a younger crowd. And that's an encouraging thing to us.
Sure.
And we're encouraged that we can bring that to Southern gospel, because when we were young, we loved it.
Yeah.
We loved Kenny Henson. You know,
Oh, yeah.
we loved those guys, and the Hensons, and you know, I love the Hemphills, and I think that was one of Seth's first songs to sing as a kid, was influenced by those groups. We want to be those groups that teenagers want to sing our songs and come to our concerts, because we believe that's God brought us here for that purpose as well.
I think that's incredible, because you're right. If you just think Southern gospel, it's traditionally a 50 and older crowd.
Yeah.
But there are groups like you all that are putting a little more progressive sound to it, but it's still holding to the roots.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do need to appeal to the younger generation, but we don't have to do that with, you know, rock or something like that.
Right.
There's a genre for that for
Sure.
sure, but yeah, that's good. So you guys are booking more and getting out and not getting tired of it yet. How are your families dealing with all that?
We get tired sometimes, but I tell you honestly, when we get in those services like the other night, I mean, we did 3 services in Florida, and they are in Florida, and I live in Atlanta. But we had to drive to South Georgia, which for them, you know, I got to drive home, you know, from there, but they had to drive all the way back to Orlando, and then he had to preach and he had to lead praise and worship. So I know they were tired, but the fact that keeps pushing us is that, like, during these services, that there's so many people that their lives are changed because of his testimony, or because of his testimony, or because of my testimony, and the songs that we deliver to the people, and their lives are changed. And I think ultimately that's what keeps us going, keeps us writing, keeps us singing, is the fact that people's lives are changed. We could go in and do shows and stuff like some do, and those are fun and all that kind of stuff. But for us, it's like seeing people's lives change, or somebody come. There's not a service that goes by that there's not somebody talking to him about depression. Or in my case, I have a son that has autism, and so I'll share that during. Somebody will talk to me about autism, or somebody will talk to Pastor Clint about pastoring, or something that he shared in a service. And so that's, for us, I think, is what keeps us going strong. It's just that people's lives are changed, and then people, you know, that we don't even know, that saw us online or something, who got saved. We have a lady that was, you know, contemplating suicide. She saw somebody with a Southbound hat on, and she asked him about it. Then she went home and looked us up. We were singing on a program with Mark Lowry, and we were singing He's Got Away. She gave her life to Jesus that night. She put all of the suicide notes away. True story. And
That's amazing.
Her life was changed. So I can't speak for these guys, but I know we're around each other enough to know that that's what gets us.
Yeah.
That kind of buoys you up, doesn't it?
That's right.
Keeps you going.
That's right.
You know, I think there's when you're doing ministry, you know, the scripture talking about not being weary and well doing, I think people misquote. What he's trying to say is keep doing the good things, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that say, well, don't burn yourself out. No, that's not what the scripture's saying.
Right.
So keep going, going, you know, and I think you get that supernatural boost of energy, you know, when you're doing ministry for the Lord.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Incredible. Anything else that you guys want to add or let people know? I mean,
we'd love to tell everybody, you know, a lot of times people don't do it and they miss things, but, you know, a lot of the things that, you know, people don't see on on a stage at a service or at a concert or an event, a lot of times you see artists from a distance. You know, a lot of our lives are displayed on our social media. You know, our Southbound Facebook, our Southbound Instagram, TikTok. You get to see a different side of us when you're watching things like that and getting to interact with us on things like that. And also our website, southbound.live.
Okay.
You know, it has all of our tour dates. And we love to hear from people, you know, that listen to our music. A lot of times they think that we don't hear from them, but we read everything that anybody sends in to us. Stories, suggestions, questions. You know, we love to interact with people that are listening to our music and being affected by it. So I'd like to encourage anybody that's watching us, that listens to us, you know, stay connected to us, and we'd like to stay connected to you.
Fantastic.
Yeah, there's things that we just released a hits medley of, 4 or 5 of the songs that we had, that have been top 10 hits that we released earlier. We put them in a medley so people would know about that. Today they just released a music video for our new single, Hold On to Hope. Okay. So you can see links to that.
We have a whole other album called Songs I Grew Up Singing that's on streaming.
Okay.
That's not one of the 3 major albums we've released, but it's a full album of songs we grew up singing. And so I have a lot of stuff.
We just recorded a song for an upcoming album for
Dottie
a Day
Rambo
One project.
tribute.
Okay.
Dottie Rambo tribute
Yeah.
for choirs. And we did the song, which song?
I Go to the Rock.
I Go to the Rock.
Yeah, it was
So
good.
all that kind
Nice.
of stuff, there's always things happening, and that's
Yeah.
a great way to stay connected.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me that you can remember the words of those older songs like that.
Now, I didn't say I remembered all those words. Now, they do a good job, but me, on the other hand, I have to just do that sometimes because I hate the words. But
Well, wonderful. And I'm assuming all your music is available on all the streaming services, Spotify and all
Yeah.
that. Yes. So
Wherever they download their music, they're going to find Southbound.
fantastic. All righty. Well, you just heard it from these gentlemen. Southbound is out there with new music and more music to come. So go to their website, go to their social media, go to your streaming services, download their music, be blessed by it. This album is fantastic. So have a great day.
I left it in the wild.